How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Before I begin, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for helping to support the channel. If you like what you see and you enjoy the content, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, smash that like button, comment in the comments section below, and hit the bell to receive notifications. I also have an eBay store called the Carolina Collector 001. The link is in the description box of each and every video. In short, that I upload here on YouTube. I actually have some auctions ending today as far as sports cards are concerned, so thank you to my returning customers and new customers, one and all. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. So with that being said, this is a pretty serious topic because, you know, I run an eBay store right out of my home. You know, I do it to supplement my income because my income is fixed. And if any of you have been watching the channel, I don't have to explain to you why, but for all of you new viewers out there, unfortunately, because of my activities at the World Trade Center post 9/11 from September 12th to September 16th, I got all screwed up health-wise. In 2011, I had to give up a fruitful career in union construction, and I've had a fight in the system for many years to get out what I put into it, and I've been blessed as a lot of those things finally came to an end, and a lot of those fights came to an end, and, you know, I basically rebuilt myself from the bottom up. I was homeless for a while, and all this crazy stuff, and I'm quite fortunate that, you know, I had a good man in my life like my dad, who passed away in June, to kind of nudge me in the right direction. And he went through all sorts of hell back in the 90s when prior to the 3 plumbing unions in New York City merged. There was a lot of corruption going on, and money was disappearing out of people's pension funds. I mean, it was just insane, but he taught me right. He taught me to be self-sufficient and be careful with people and be careful with business. So, you know, selling things on eBay, I've had to become my own, you know, I guess, CEO or expert. You know, I'm not claiming to be a hobby expert at all. You know, I just collect sneakers, I collect jerseys, Transformers toys, you know, all that sort of thing. So, but I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I'm, you know, I want to say probably well-rounded in these hobbies. And with that being said, you know, I love old school sneakers. You can see the extent of my collection, with the exception of one pair of shoes, which I happen to have right here. These are the 2025 Nike Air Jordan 4 white cements, which I haven't wore yet, but I do intend on wearing them because I happen to have that pair of the 2016s, and I also have another pair that I wear quite often. So we'll do a specific video about my favorite shoe as far as which one of these seems to have the most longevity and is the most durable. We'll talk about that in a future video. But I want to get into this whole thing with Cool Kicks. Now, I've heard of Cool Kicks. I do watch sneaker content sometimes. And Cool Kicks is an example of what's wrong with all of these hobbies. Because once greed is introduced into any type of thing that was meant for enjoyment or personal gain. I used to be a member of the 501st Legion Empire City Garrison, which was a Star Wars fan group. And that, you know, it was supposed to be for people with like-minded interests, but then, of course, you know, you have a little group of people that are in there that run it like it's a fascist dictatorship that tries to tell you what to go do with your stuff. Yeah, to have accurate costumes and have accuracy is one thing, to bring these characters to life. But at the end of the day, it was supposed to be by the fans, for the fans. Now, of course, after what happened with Gina Carano, you know, and the lesbian witches and all that kind of stuff, we all see what it's all about. You know, it's corrupt nonsense. It's bullshit. I'm glad I sold off all my stuff. I can't stand the Star Wars franchise. It's been completely taken over by it, what, who pronoun, big, fat, black, trans, guilty, white, liberal, you know, Danny DeVito's like this, you know what I mean? It's the type of people that you see outside these Portland ice facilities. But let's not get into politics. But anything that was meant to be innocent and meant to be fun now has been corrupted by greed and jealousy and everything else. And sneakerheads, unfortunately, have had to deal with shoes that are just released minutes ago, and immediately they're being flipped for 3 times what their retail value is. I'll pull out the Pine Green SBs right here. I mean, when these came out, what were they, 200 and change, and immediately they're being flipped for $400 to $500. Why? Why? And then you got guys like Cool Kicks who are out there putting their face in the public, doing all this stuff on whatnot, and they got raided by the feds, and rightfully so. as a legitimate LLC, all right, anytime I file taxes, like I mean, I've been filing taxes since I'm a young man. I got a whole stack of envelopes, and that's no joke. I'll pan the camera around so you can see. Those are all my tax forms from when I was a young man, up until recent, because, well, I try to do the right thing tax-wise. You know what I mean? That's I don't believe in paying taxes. Actually, taxes are technically illegal and unconstitutional, but that's how the roads get repaired and all that kind of stuff. So, as long as we're not taxed to death and we're all not left homeless, hey man, if a pothole has to be filled up, as long as the money goes to fill that pothole, okay. But all this other junk that's going on right now in DC and with these politicians, shutting down the government, it's just disgusting. It really is. But, if there was ever a time that I got an audit, I could produce the receipts and the tax forms and all that kind of stuff. Even right now, I'm preparing for next year. I started printing out bank statements and all that kind of stuff. It's going to show all my eBay transactions, whether I'm buying or selling. eBay's really good at itemizing things for you, so it's easy to maneuver when tax season comes around. Like, for example, if I buy printer ink, staples, labels, envelopes, things, as far as card supplies are concerned, like top loaders and penny sleeves, that's in there. It's all itemized to make it easy for me to write out my deductions, my tax deductions, or my tax write-offs. But here I am on YouTube showing my face and talking about these different hobbies. I'm always showing off product. Everything here is legit, bought legitimately with my own money. Not sponsored in any way by any of these companies. Same thing with my jerseys. I bought all my jerseys on my own. I'll pan down the camera right there. All of these jerseys I bought on my own. All the hats that I own, I bought on my own. But because you're out there in the public, you don't think people are not going to be scrutinizing me like they scrutinize Cool Kicks. It's going to happen, man. And unfortunately, what happened with them, allegedly, is that there were sneakers that were robbed from a train, if I understand the story correct. And please correct me in the comments section below. That apparently they were selling stolen sneakers. Apparently and allegedly without their knowledge. But they were passing off stolen goods. Whether those were fake replica shoes, I think that's still up in the air at this point, I believe. But the way the story goes is that they were reselling stolen goods. And this is one of the major problems that somebody like myself and many hobbyists have when it comes to this sort of thing. That once people start to see green, they don't know when to stop. This is why people have a problem, allegedly, with Jeff Wilson and what he promotes, flipping, investment. Why you see nonsense going on in the Pokemon TCG space. God bless Opossum Bud. He's been really calling this stuff out. There's another YouTuber that also calls this out. I forget what his name is. But he also talks about, the Pokemon TCG space where you see grown men and women fist fighting over Pokemon cards because of the illusion that they're going to make 3x or 4x on buying these Pokemon cards, which by right are supposed to be in the hands of little kids and teenagers, not grown adults. But because you have people that are stupid and uneducated they basically cut out of school or were failures, wanted to hang out with the cool kids, grabbing their crotches, not bending the brims on their hats, walking around like they got testicular cancer. You know the types, right? The thuggish, ruggish types, and the big fat, lumbering blobs of protoplasm, smoking Marlboro cigarettes with teeth broken off at the gum line, with man boobs and all that stuff. Dumb people, stupid people, people that just want to make easy money without working for it. They don't want to make an honest living. They just want to live their life ripping people off. I'm not apologizing for that. So, with that being said, this is what we have to deal with in these hobbies, unfortunately. That goes for sports. That goes for sports card collectors, Transformers collectors, sneakerheads, jersey collectors. Man, there are tons of fakes. I mean, I can pull out this Mitchell & Ness Eli Manning jersey, and there'll be 15 fakes that look just like it, if you don't know what you're looking for. Because everything is about easy money these days. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to make an honest living. Nobody, I'm my own boss, fortunately. Thank God for that. I'm not making a ton of money, but I'm still, in charge of myself. And the only person I can cheat is me, you know what I mean? And I don't rip off my customers. I make things very, very transparent and clear here on the channel. Especially, if I'm shipping off my sports cards or if a problem comes up. I have playlists where I talk about how the post office has dropped the ball multiple times on people, not delivering packages, not delivering envelopes. I talk about returns that I get, but all in all, transparency helps. Your customer base will trust you a lot more. A lot of businesses don't do that. As a collector and a buyer and a seller, I get where a lot of people are coming from. I'm just an average Joe. I'm not here to be the next Probstein or whatever his goddamn name is. I'm here to have a little fun. I'm here to be a collector, and I'm also here to make a little money on the side of the things that I don't collect. I'll collect certain sports cards, but I don't collect others. And when I don't collect them, I might as well put them in the hands of somebody who likes them. And I've changed my business model a little bit. Instead of doing buy it nows constantly, throw some auctions out there, because apparently people like to have fun sitting at their computers bidding on this stuff. So with all that being said, what Cool Kicks has done essentially is really shine a spotlight on a lot of things that are wrong in these various hobbies and collecting spaces. I like good sneakers. I never have to worry about sneakers, at least for the time being, for the immediate future. Obviously, I have a lot to choose from, and I'm very blessed and humbled by that. There are people that don't have anything. And I've given out jerseys and sneakers to people around here, and throughout the years I've given of, myself, freely without any expectation. Unfortunately, I mentioned this in a previous video that things have kind of got a little haywire these days around here, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. But, it's just unfortunately anything that can be conned, scammed, anything that someone can rip you off and steal your money or clear out your bank account. Or maybe you think you're buying a legitimate pair of Concord 11s. Turns out they're fake. You spend all this money on stuff and it's not even real. I mean, unfortunately, once people start seeing dollar signs, there's no stopping these type of people. The greed kicks in full blast. And Cool Kicks is a good example of that. And there are people on Whatnot, from what I've been seeing, that do these auction things or whatever it is that Whatnot does. I don't like Whatnot. I would never resort to using Whatnot. It just seems a haven for people that are greedy. And I'm watching people selling Pokemon cards that if they don't get the money they're asking for, they literally will cut the card in half or destroy it. What kind of sick puppies are we dealing with out there that everything is about money? Yeah, I like money too. But the difference between me or someone like me versus the world at large is that I'm not greedy. Sorry. I run an honest business from my home. I'm very transparent about it. My face is out there in the public. I already have my detractors out there. That's fine. Fuck them, because they don't pay my bills. They want access to my bank account. They want this. They want that. I talked about what happened with me and my ex and them putting out my mug shots. Of course, I was acquitted multiple times over multiple issues over multiple years, by the way. Being a 9/11 fraud when I can produce the paperwork. But let's get past that, because it's nothing but, jealous reprobates that have retards for kids that, spend all their money on garbage and junk and beer and costumes, but then meanwhile send their wives out to beg for medical benefits, while they're on yacht trips and skeet shooting, events and whatnot. Go figure that one. Driving an imported motorcycle and car, or buying expensive Star Wars costumes. Having having a drug addict for an ex-wife. No wonder the kid's all fucked up. You have to point these things out to people, because people don't want to look in a mirror. They don't want to see themselves for what they are. And for the most part, people in hobby spaces and people that are part of these little social clubs and these Whatnot auctions, they all come from a position of self-importance and greed, and basically boils down to narcissism. And these guys got busted because they didn't know when to stop. They didn't know when to quit. And everything eventually comes full circle. And good, honest to goodness, business owners like myself who run a small business right out of my home, it's an open book. You cannot buy and sell stolen goods, especially counterfeit goods. Jordans, like these, I bought from Soul Priorities. I have a Soul Priorities shop right here, as a matter of fact, in my local mall. They always have it. Man, they always got good stuff. But, because they always get stuff way, way earlier than pretty much anybody else around here. So, same thing like I just mentioned. I'll pull out another jersey. Here's my Eli Manning Color Rush jersey that came out years ago. You know how many times this thing has been counterfeited on eBay? Eli Manning jerseys have tons and tons of fakes. Here's my Vapor Elite jersey. This thing has been counterfeited hundreds and hundreds of times. And the list goes on. You got to be careful, folks. You got to be careful with whom you're dealing with. And you got to be careful where you're spending your money. People just want to take your money out of your pocket. They want this. All they care about is this. And they'll do anything to get it. They'll do anything to get you to open this up and clean you out just so that they can make a profit. Again, most of them are dumb, stupid, uneducated, probably cut out of school. They hung out with the cool kids, you know what I'm saying? You know, they all want to be schoolyard kids. Everybody wants to talk like this, y'all. Know what I'm saying? Y'all, I hate that shit. Oh, I hate that Ebonics crap. But most of these people hung out with those types, hanging out in the handball courts, cut school, and now they're useless to society. So what do? They've taken up scamming. Simple. They've taken up scamming people because it's easy money. There's a scam everywhere, folks, for everything and everyone. And you got to really be careful with this sort of thing, folks. So just a word to the wise, man. Watch out for some of these companies. Even with me, for example, as a small business owner. I mean, I've been earning my reputation here on YouTube and on eBay. I mean, what am I, 99.5% positive feedbacks? And I had, 3 idiots try to hold me hostage by using feedback extortion because they didn't get their way. I have another customer trying to do that right now. It shows that one of his cards. I think it was a Wyatt Langford, I believe, X-Fractor or some parallel, that he filed a claim that he never received his item, but it clearly shows it was delivered. Trying to get a free card. That's an old scam. Nobody falls for that anymore. So I did what I had to do. Contact your local police, file a police report, contact eBay, ask your neighbors, ask your friends, all that kind of stuff. And I know I'm going to win this claim for $3 just to get a free card. Card swapping, fake slabs, fake shoes, fake jerseys. This is the world we live in. But Cool Kicks is the best example of what happens when you allow your greed to go too far. And when you're buying and selling stolen items and stolen goods, you deserve to go to jail. Period. End of story. There's just no second chance with that one. If you know you're committing a crime, you're a willful participant in it, you're stealing people's money by selling them a cheap, crappy pair of shoes that'll probably fall apart in 6 months, you deserve to go to jail. It's not a good look for Cool Kicks or any other business that engages in this type of behavior, in fraudulent behavior. So just be aware of who you're dealing with. You know, if you come across an eBay seller like myself, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid, to challenge the status quo. Don't be afraid to challenge whatnot sellers. I can't believe that I'm watching videos of guys cutting up expensive Pokemon cards because they didn't get the $1,000 they were asking for this card or whatever have you. It's ridiculous. That's like me trying to sell my military blues for $700. And if I don't get what I want from people on whatnot, I'm going to take a knife and cut them up. How stupid are you? But at least this is my personal collection of shoes. I think I may have resold 1 pair of shoes, 2 pairs of shoes throughout my eBay career that I started. Maybe. If that. And they get legitimate checked. Same thing like with sports cards. When you ship sports cards over a certain dollar value, they're going to be legit checked. Make sure that the certificate numbers are valid. Make sure that the slabs themselves are valid and legit. This is the world we live in, folks. Everybody wants that easy money, but nobody wants to work for it. Nobody wants to sit down and grind and do the hard work to actually earn their keep. Give me that. It's mine. It's all greed. Greed. Greed, sloth, envy. There's no other way to say it, folks. And Cool Kicks, well, if the feds busted them, those are federal charges, and I don't see any way out of that. And they're going to do some hard jail time, probably. I wouldn't doubt it. And I'm surprised Nike themselves don't go after these people, because that's probably next in line. And if anybody knows Nike, like Nintendo, they're very aggressive when it comes to their IPs and their copyright. So I would expect Nike to also chime into this thing. So be careful, folks. Don't allow yourself to become a victim of greed and things like this. It's ridiculous. It's sad. It sucks for all of us. I myself am a sneaker collector. This is the extent of my collection. Again, with the exception of the 2025s that are right here. I mean, you got to be careful, folks. You got to be careful. There's a snake oil salesman around every corner, every crack, every crevice, every shadowy alleyway. Be careful. And anybody that was taken advantage of by Cool Kicks, I hope you get your money back. I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.